Hey everyone, this is David with Injured Gadgets, and I've got some exciting news to share with you today. So we know that not everyone has a laser machine or wants to spend money on one, but we've been working really hard to get a product out on the market that doesn't require a laser to get back glasses removed off of iPhones. So we've done a lot of extensive research on this kit. You can see some of it here in front of me, but we'll be going into a lot of detail on the full kit in this video here today. And to give all that information to you guys, as well as a demonstration of the kit, we've got Brad here. So Brad, take it away.
Okay guys, what we want to do is kind of go over the pieces of equipment that we have and the tools a little more in depth, a little more in detail, give you some idea about what settings you'll be using on the equipment, use cases for the individual blades that we have, and some further explanation of the different tools that we have on the table. First we'll go over the hot air station. This hot air station is our Mechanic 861DW, does come in the tier 1 kit. You'll be setting this up pretty easily. Simple power cord, couple switches. You'll notate the up and down arrows here for temperature and your airflow. So for temperature, you'll be setting this at about 425 Celsius for the repair. Your airflow, you'll want to turn up to about 50 for this repair. Moving on over here to our fume extractor. Fume extractor is to help just kind of clean the air, utilized to help the fumes while we use the 5111. 5111 is a glue remover. Through our research and development, we found that this glue remover does aid in the removal of the glass. It does help break that barrier between the actual adhesive and the housing to help give you a really clean look after the fact. So as well, we want to talk about our individual blades that we have here. They're numbered blades as well, so starting with our number 7 blade. This is an actual wide VGA blade. This will help just for the most coverage and to help remove the larger pieces of glass. Again, I mentioned that these are very thin. They aid in slipping in right up under the glass in between the housing to kind of give you a quick removal of the glass once you're using the hot air station at the proper temperature. Moving on to our number 13 blade. These are used in the more narrow areas around the housing, especially around the camera lens and up the sides, or to help remove some of the smaller pieces as well. We have 2 similar type blades. The number 13 and 18 is, you'll see just the difference in them is the squared and rounded edge. Kind of leading into some personal preference, but both utilized for the same use case. Just in the more narrow, thinner areas when you need to remove smaller pieces of glass around more troublesome areas like the camera lens. Then uniquely, we have the number 21 blade. It's designed for some different use cases for VGA removal and chip removal, but for this we found that it really helps around the camera lens because it is very thin and narrow like our number 13 and 18 blades. But a little more thick, a little more sturdy. It helps in those areas where there is a lot of adhesive for the back glass. It does have a nice little pick that sticks out the side. This is ideal for getting up under that camera lens lip. There is glass that sits up under there, and this really helps to get those pieces of glass out. Then finally, we want to talk about our number 22 blade. This use case is for after all the glass is removed. This will aid in removing some of that residue around the plastic bezel where there's buildup and around the camera lens. So that will help you in those areas as well. To talk about the blade handle we have here, the blade handle is pretty simple use. It will hold all these different various blades, loosening up by unscrewing the top gold area, and then where that's inscribed with your number is where it will insert into the blade handle, and then a quick twist of it will secure it in place to help you begin removal. So these blades are very thin, and you will be damaging some of the blades in the removal of the glass. That's why we provide you with cases of multiple blades to use. We will also be reselling these packs of blades individually for further uses and more repairs that you do. So also we want to talk about what we have laying in front of us is the glass breaker. This glass breaker is unique because through our research and development we found that it is the best model for breaking this glass without damaging the frame. A lot of glass breakers out there will just reused hole punchers, and they did just that. They punched holes through the glass all the way into the metal. This one is the right strength. It's just enough to break the glass but without damaging that housing for you guys. So as well, we want to kind of go into our clamp that we've chose here. This clamp secures to your table, and then it has a couple of different mechanics here to help secure the device for that. So it has a nice pad on the bottom to help protect anything there, and then 2 silicone strips down the side to help keep you from scratching the housing as well. So twisting the knob a few times will help secure that device in place. Then a nice little lever here allows you to rotate this around. So this will aid in when you're trying to get at certain areas from certain angles without having to move yourself a whole lot. You can twist this around to get that key leverage that you're looking for. A quick flip back of the lever will help secure that so it doesn't move around. And then really want to speak heavily on our gloves and our safety glasses. These 2 pieces of equipment are very essential for this repair. This helps protect your hands from the broken glass and the heat from the hot air station as well. Very important, your eye protective wear. While you're removing this glass, it is susceptible to be flying into your face. You definitely don't want it flying into your eye. So we definitely include a pair of safety gloves and glasses for that. We also have some nice little cloths here at the final stage of after you've removed all of your glass and you're doing some final cleanup. There's no more residue. Some alcohol in these cloths will help get you a really clean surface area when you're applying your cold press glue, which is laying right here. With the gun and the cold press glue, this allows you to apply the cold press in a pattern similar to what the OEM has, and then laying the glass on top with a clamp will kind of give you that final feel that you're looking for and finish off the repair for you guys. Alright guys, now what we want to do, we want to kind of begin to go into the repair. We'll show you putting the device into the clamp, utilizing some of the blades and the techniques for using the liquid, our hot air gun, and go ahead and removing the back glass from this housing here. So our clamp here, twisting the knob will kind of open and close it, get it open enough to insert your device in there, twist it a few times to get it secured. Secured enough to your liking without damaging the frame. And you can use the lever here to kind of get it in your right angle that you want to begin with. I usually start in the bottom left or right hand corner. Considering the damage here, we'll go ahead and start in this bottom right hand corner. Definitely want to go ahead and put our gloves on. Don't want to forget our safety glasses, very, very important. So now that our device is secured in the clamp, we got it at the right angle to my preference. We'll go ahead and just break some key points to kind of aid in the removal of the glass. Sometimes it's better to have larger shards, sometimes it's better to remove smaller shards. So we definitely want to break it as much as we can around the camera lens. That'll help get some of that glass that's up under the lip of the camera lens with ease. So using the back glass breaker, you just want to point it and apply pressure to where you're wanting to break, and then just push down till it actually breaks. Like I said, we definitely want to get around this camera lens really well. So here in the bottom, this housing doesn't have anything in it, but you want to be careful not to hit anywhere around where your charge coil is, and you definitely don't want to puncture through your charge port if you so be choosing to leave those components in. But now that we have some good starting points, we can go ahead and select our blade. We'll use this thinner blade to kind of help get to a starting point, move over to our wider blade, and if we need the stronger blade, we'll go into that before we get to the camera lens. So, inserting the blade into the handle, twisting it for secure and secure. We'll begin to use our hot air station to go ahead and heat up some of the areas. Like we do have the temperature set and mentioned before. You want to set it at about 425 and about 50 for your airflow. And I usually put the medium-sized nozzle. This isn't the most narrow, but it's not the most widest, but it does help concentrate the area into a precise location of your choosing. Usually hold the hot air gun about maybe 1 to 2 inches. I vary that just depending on what I'm trying to do. But you don't ever want to leave it like secured in one location for an extended period of time. You don't want to melt any of the components that are inside the foam. So you want to keep it in like a constant motion, back and forth, just depending on what you're doing. So we'll heat this general quadrant for a few moments before we apply our liquid. So just moving it back and forth for a good maybe 10, 15, 20 seconds is just about enough to begin applying the liquid. And then we'll still hold and apply hot air through the removal of the glass process. So like I said, this should be good enough that we can go ahead and apply some of our liquid, which will aid in going ahead and removing the glass from the frame. So at this point, we'll use our 5111. With the little needle tip, you can begin to get it up under the cracks and in the cracks, and this will help the removal of that process. You can see the heat causing it to sizzle just enough. That's ideal. Now we got our blade and our handle. The fumes that you'll smell when applying this, that's why we do have our fume extractor here turned up to aid in that process. So I usually opt for holding my hot air in my left hand. I'm right-handed, so more precise movements is important when you're using the blade. So at that point you can have better control of what you're doing. So we'll begin to heat the area that we did before. Now that we have our glue remover there, then using the VGA blade, you can go ahead and begin to slide in between that frame and that glass, and you can see the glass pieces start to come out. So if you do have some trouble with inserting the blade, you want to let the tools do the work for you. You don't want to apply too much pressure. One, because it's not quite hot enough and it's going to be tough for the glass to remove. The adhesive still is adhered to the frame pretty well. If you use too much pressure also, these blades are pretty thin. They're thin for a reason, but they are susceptible to bending and they can break. So just getting under these areas, you can see this glass will begin to come right off. You can see with slight bend to our blade, but this process becomes easy once it hits the right temperature. The blade is thin enough that it just slides right under that glass, and it just becomes much easier to go ahead and get removed from the frame. You'll notice too that the 511 really aids in go ahead and removing most of the residue when you do get the glass off of the frame. So now that we do have most of the glass from this bottom portion, I'm going to halt for a second and go ahead and change blades real quick. One, because I was applying too much pressure at that point. But I want to go ahead and begin cleaning up the edge down here. So swapping over the blades is just as easy as untwisting that a couple of times, reinserting and retightening. Now we're ready to go. So in these areas around the frame, you want to be careful. There is a plastic bezel here, but having this more narrow blade gives me a lot more control about when I'm going ahead and removing this glass. So just keeping the hot air just slightly away from the frame, or about 2 to 3 inches. You can get right under these glass pieces and clean up your edge pretty well. Like I said, if I'm having some issues with the proper angle, loosening up and retightening it, now I can get a better angle on the glass on the other side. So using a little bit of heat, running the blade against the edge of the plastic bezel, we'll get all of that glass out of the corner. You do want to take your time when doing this. It's usually not a race. Take the time to adjust your angles so you can get proper removal of the glass. So So what we're going to do now is because we're more up into the middle of the frame, we're just going to heat up and reapply a little more 5111. A good 15-20 seconds is enough to kind of get you to the right temperature. You'll see also as well, pretty clean down to bare metal here. Over here on the left-hand side where we didn't really apply too much 5111, you can still see a little residue. But again, that's why we have our 22 blade here to go ahead and help with that process. So now that we got temperature up on the glass in the frame, we'll apply a little more of this liquid. And because it is a needle blade, it does allow you to kind of get under the edge. The adhesive is laid down by Apple in a certain pattern, so it does leave gaps of no adhesive, which allows for some of the blades to get under there, allows you to get some of the liquid. Our gloves allow us to go ahead and touch this hot glass without damaging our hands. We can go ahead and begin to clean up some of this edge. Like I said, you want to let the tools do the work for you. If it's not really inserting quite easily and you're not able to, slide the blade up under the glass, just go ahead and make sure you come in a little closer with your nozzle. That'll help kind of bring up that temperature and go ahead and release that. You'll feel it when it releases. It's something I can try to explain, but once you begin the process and have some experience using the kit once or twice, you'll really understand about what I'm referencing here. But like I said, just allow yourself to get to the right temperature and you shouldn't have much trouble. Just make sure you're not leaving the nozzle in one certain area for too long. You'll notice once it kind of gets up to the ideal temperature, the glass comes off with ease. The 5111, like I mentioned several times, it's really a good aid for releasing the glass from the frame. I can start to see where there's still some residue being left, so I'm gonna go ahead and pause for just a second and continue to heat up this area for a moment and apply a little more liquid so that this is just a little easier. This provides a cleaner feel after all the glasses are removed. There's not much residue to clean up afterwards. Good 10 seconds or so, we can go ahead and get a little more liquid. Get it under those edges. Right back to the removal process. You can just see how the blade just really slides up under and in between that glass and adhesive. Here with this little piece of glass, we're having a little trouble, so just let it heat up for a second and slides right under. As soon as it gets to that right temperature, that adhesive will release directly from the housing. Now that we've got most of the glass out, I'm going to adjust this, clean up some of this edge. Getting into this camera lens, I do have the blade mentioned that I like to use for this area. There is quite a bit of adhesive in this area, so it may take just a little longer to bring it up to temperature, but you can see the glass still will come right out with this. Again, too, we have our pick here on the side. This is what I use to just make sure that I get all the glass out of the area. Let's go ahead and adjust our angle. And our camera lenses, they do have a rubber ring that is around them. Sometimes it's preserved, sometimes it's not, but we do offer the rings on our website. If you happen to damage it, cut it, break it, by all means you can get replacements from our website as well. Use my pick here and get that little piece having trouble with. And then that's pretty much it, guys. That's all the glass removed. So we'll take our claws here. Go ahead and help remove some of this glass. You can take it out of the frame, dump it out. We don't want to damage our coil too much. Again, this is just a housing for testing purposes. So at this point now you have all the glass removed. What I like to do is utilize a different blade to come through and clean up any residual adhesive. So we'll just twist, change blades. We'll use our 22 blade here. It's more of a flat, sharpened type blade that is pretty wide. You can use in like a scraping motion. You'll see what I mean when I go ahead and start removing some of this adhesive residue. A little heat and it just slides right off. We'll clean up all the main portion of the frame. Make sure we have no residue here for when we apply new adhesive. A little heat and slides right off. Again, I like to use this blade to help clean up down the sides. So where the plastic bezel is, you do get quite the residue. So I basically just follow the blade with the hot air and go right up against the plastic bezel, and it will cut all of that residual adhesive off. Especially going around the frame corners. Sometimes there's some buildup as well. Again, a little heat and this specific blade will help you clean that right up. You want to be careful, the plastic bezel can melt, you can damage it really easy. So when you're doing this step, just take your time, it's not a race. At the proper temperature, that adhesive just comes right out. So now we've done that side, we'll come down this side, following the blade with the hot air. Again, that's why we have some gloves here. This helps protect our hands. Definitely don't want to burn them. And all this residue will come right out. This will give you a lot cleaner, more flush finish for your client when you go ahead and reapply the new glass. That way that when your plastic bezel is retained and all this residue comes out, they get a really nice flush, clean look on their device. A little more adhesive here, and you'll see it just come right up. Clean up the top edge. And one more thing that we're going to do is we're going to swap over to a narrow blade, again to help get the residue away from the camera lens. Our ring did get damaged, but of course we'll replace that before we apply new glass. Got just a little residue right here in the corner. That's it. One final step I like to do is go ahead and apply some alcohol to our cloths. Just go ahead and clean that up. I'll get all the particles and any glue that was removed that's just sitting on the frame away from the frame. It'll show you any areas that you missed that you can come back and remove some residue from. We're trying to get as close to the bare metal as we can, that way we get the best adhesion when we do apply our cold press glue and we apply our new piece of glass. Now that we've got that cleaned up, we do see a couple little areas where we have some residue. Go ahead and get that off. And that's it, guys. That's pretty much it. I appreciate you staying with me, and I hope this, guys, is beneficial for you.